Hey everyone, welcome back to Valley of Secrets. I'm your host, Nicci Ruth. Before we begin today, a quick content warning. This episode contains descriptions of violence, psychological trauma, and disturbing circumstances that may be difficult for some listeners. Please take care of yourself while listening. Today's story will take you places you don't expect. Every lead twists into another theory, and every clue contradicts the last. And by the end, you might not know what to believe. This case is one of the strangest, most haunting mysteries I've come across. And this story does hit close to home because the victim was a nurse. Many of you may not know this, but when I'm not producing this podcast, I work full-time as a registered nurse. So when I learned that Cindy James spent her life caring for others before the fear consumed her, something inside me connected to her story in a way I can't shake. It's a long, complex story, so I will be splitting this into 2 parts. You'll have to wait until next week to see how it all unfolds. Today, our story begins in Richmond, British Columbia, in 1989, a city between river and sea. It was a place still finding its shape, farmland giving way to subdivisions, the steady pulse of new shopping plazas, and the sound of jets lifting off from Vancouver International Airport. On paper, Richmond was safe, predictable, ordinary. But beneath that facade, something darker had already taken root. For 7 years, one woman had lived in fear. She had changed her name, moved homes, installed alarms, and no matter what she did, she couldn't outrun the terror that followed her. This is the story of Cindy James. It's just after 10 o'clock at night on May 25th, 1989, in Richmond. The air is cool and still, that early summer kind of night where everything feels calm and familiar. A soft breeze moves through the cedars lining Blundell Road. Streetlights hum above neat driveways and tidy lawns. 69-year-old Agnes Woodcock and her husband Tom pull up outside 8240 Blundell Road, a quiet townhouse tucked between manicured hedges and a stretch of traffic that never really sleeps. This is the home of their close friend, 44-year-old Cindy James. They're here for their usual Thursday game of bridge, something they've done countless times before. It's routine, comfortable, one of those small rituals that helps you feel like life is normal. Tonight, they're running a little bit behind their usual 9 p.m. start, as Agnes, a nurse, was getting off a late shift and wanted to go home to eat, shower, and get dressed before heading to Cindy's. Agnes honks the horn twice, their usual signal. It's what she always did when she came for bridge night. Cindy didn't like answering the door without knowing who was there, and for good reason, as you will hear in this story. Usually, Cindy would appear at the window with that shy little smile and wave them in. But tonight, the house stays dark. The curtains don't move. The Woodcocks wait a few minutes. The neighborhood is quiet, just the sound of distant cars rolling through an intersection a few blocks away. Agnes notices that Cindy's blue Chevrolet Citation isn't in the driveway. Maybe she's running late. But something in her gut says otherwise. She tells Tom to wait in the car while she checks. She walks up to the front door and knocks, and calls out Cindy's name. No answer. Around the back, the same thing. The door's locked, and she knocks, and again, no answer. The only light inside is a small lamp glowing faintly through the blinds, the kind you leave on when you know that you'll be back home soon. The Woodcocks go downstairs to ask Cindy's tenant, Richard Johnston, if he's seen her. He answers the door and looks surprised to see Agnes standing there. He tells her Cindy left earlier that afternoon, around 4 or 4:30, to run a few errands, deposit her paycheck, pick up groceries, and buy a birthday gift for a friend's son. She said she'd be back that evening for cards. But now, there's just silence. Agnes and Tom decide to drive around. Maybe she stopped somewhere. Maybe her car broke down. They circle through Richmond's main streets, past rows of storefronts and closed diners glowing under neon signs. And then, they see it. At the Bank of Montreal on No. 3 Road, parked neatly in the middle of the lot, is Cindy's blue Chevrolet Citation. Agnes slows the car. Her pulse kicks up. They pull in beside it and climb out. The air feels heavy now, the way it does when you know you're seeing something you shouldn't. Through the window, the grocery bags sit on the front passenger seat. A carton of milk, a loaf of bread, a small paper bag. Her purse sits right beside them. Everything exactly as it should be, except Cindy. There's no broken glass, no signs of a struggle, nothing seems to be missing, just a parked car in an empty lot. Agnes can feel it, the wrongness of it all. She knows Cindy, and she knows that she never parks far from the doors. Knows she was careful, even cautious. And this doesn't fit. So they do the only thing that makes sense. They drive straight to the Richmond RCMP detachment. Inside, the fluorescent lights hum. The officer at the front desk listens politely as Agnes explains that her friend is missing. She's terrified. She's been receiving threats for years. This isn't normal. But in 1989, procedure was procedure. According to Neal Hall's The Death of Cindy James, missing adults had to be gone 24 hours before police could file a report, unless there was clear evidence of foul play. Agnes refuses to accept that. She's tired, anxious, but she won't leave. She keeps repeating herself, "This isn't like Cindy. She's scared. Please, just go check." And just to pause here for a second, because this part always gets me. Back then, that quote-unquote 24-hour rule wasn't even law. It was more of a myth, a bad habit that had seeped into policing culture across North America. People were told to wait a day, wait until morning. But when someone goes missing, those first hours matter most. They even created a show called The First 48 Hours. In British Columbia today, there is no waiting period. If someone you love disappears, you can report it immediately, and police will act right away. In fact, they encourage you to report it immediately these days. But in 1989, that wasn't common knowledge. People like Agnes were left pleading with officers who were bound by outdated policy. And because of that, valuable time slipped away. After nearly half an hour, according to Hall, one officer finally agrees to drive out and take a look. By midnight, the Richmond RCMP are on the scene. The parking lot glows under yellow streetlights as investigators photograph Cindy's blue Chevrolet before touching a single thing. According to Neal Hall, officers noted the gear shift was in park. The groceries she'd bought earlier still sat on the front seat beside her purse, and oddly, the defrost fan was turned on. That small detail, Hall writes, haunted investigators. The evening had been mild. There was no fog, no chill that would explain it. To them, it meant only one thing. Someone had been in the car recently. A faint smear of blood marked the driver's door. And beneath the car, Officers found her bank card and deposit slip, as if they'd been dropped or placed there deliberately. Inside, there were maps, envelopes, and a few handwritten notes, one of which contained part of a license plate number. In the ashtray, there were 2 cigarette butts, known to be Cindy's usual brand. The trunk was empty, the engine cold. According to Hall, investigators couldn't shake the feeling that everything about the scene was precise. The groceries were still cool to the touch. The seatbelt had retracted perfectly. It looked like a car parked by someone who fully expected to come back. But Cindy never did. By 12:30 a.m., the search shifts to her townhouse. Officers drive the few blocks back to 8440 Blundell Road. Everything is locked up. The front porch light burns steadily, and through the blinds, they can see the kitchen table, neat, almost staged. A deck of cards sits out beside a notepad, waiting for the game she never got to host. Her dog Heidi greets them at the door, tail wagging, nervous whines echoing through the small foyer. The house is calm, tidy, untouched. Nothing to suggest a woman planning to run away. Hall writes that police lingered there for a long moment, absorbing the stillness, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. By 1 a.m., police had the car towed to the detachment for full processing. Technicians vacuumed the seats, dust for prints, and combed the surrounding area. According to the province, dogs and helicopters swept the fields near Blundell and No. 5 Road, searching for any trace of Cindy. They find nothing. By 2 a.m., the search widened. RCMP cruisers crawled along Richmond's side roads, their headlights flashing across drainage ditches and brush. Police dogs moved in widening circles around the bank, noses low, tails rigid. Above them, helicopters traced slow arcs through the mist, their thermal scanners scanning the darkened farmland. Nothing, not a trace of Cindy James. And as the night stretched towards dawn, one truth settled over everyone involved. Cindy was gone. Before she became the center of one of British Columbia's most haunting mysteries, Cindy James was simply Cynthia Elizabeth Hack, a nurse, a sister, a daughter. According to Neal Hall, she was born on June 12, 1944, in Oliver, British Columbia, the oldest of 6 children in a close but strict family. Her father, Otto Hack, had served as a colonel in the Royal Canadian Air Force before becoming an English teacher. Her mother, Matilda, known as Tilly, stayed home to raise the children. They were devout, structured, the kind of family where the table was always set on time and expectations were clear. In diaries later reviewed during the inquest, Cindy described her father as proud, intelligent, and demanding. Discipline came quickly, sometimes physically. As the years passed, Otto's career moved them across the country, and by her teens, Cindy was living in Ottawa, Ontario. She was bright, soft-spoken, loved literature and art. Friends from school remembered her as gentle, but private, the kind of girl who smiled often, but rarely shared what she was really feeling. After high school, she moved west to Vancouver to study nursing, enrolling in 1962 and graduating in 1966, according to family testimony at the coroner's inquest. During those years, her father was stationed in France, and Cindy would visit during the holidays. In 1965, Cindy met Dr. Roy Makepeace, a South African-born psychiatrist 18 years her senior. He was charming, articulate, and self-assured. They married in December 1966, the same year she graduated nursing school. According to Neal Hall and family interviews later shared by her sister Melanie Hack, the marriage began happily but slowly eroded. Cindy's father believed Roy had taken advantage of her naivety. Friends said he could be controlling and distant, that Cindy often felt unseen, even small in his presence. Roy himself would later admit he'd slapped her around a couple times during arguments, but insisted it never had gone further than that. The marriage ended in 1982, when Cindy, then 38, finally left him. She bought her own home in Richmond, and for the first time in her life, she was living alone. She poured herself into her work at Blenheim House as a team coordinator, a treatment facility for children with behavioral disorders. According to colleagues quoted in the Province and the Vancouver Sun, she was one of those nurses who could calm even the most difficult child. Patient, kind, but sometimes withdrawn. This is where she met her good friend and fellow nurse, Agnes Woodcock. Her sister Melanie would later say that looking back, Cindy seemed to crave stability, a sense of safety. Maybe it was because she'd grown up in such a strict order, or maybe because her adult life had become so unpredictable. Whatever the reason, the peace didn't last. According to Neal Hall, it was right after her separation from Roy, the summer of 1982, that the phone calls began. Anonymous, whispering voices, then obscene letters, then slashed pillows, severed phone lines, and dead cats left in her yard. Within months, Cindy's world turned from calm into chaos. And I know what you're probably thinking right now. Was it her ex-husband? Maybe a stranger? Or something else entirely? That question has haunted this case for decades, because everyone who looked at Cindy's story saw something different. A victim of a sadistic stalker, or a woman unraveling under the weight of her own fear. It's late spring 1989. Cindy's friends are looking for her. Her car has just been found abandoned with blood on the door. Police start the long process of questioning those closest to Cindy, starting with her ex-husband. At 3 a.m., 2 officers pull up to a quiet home in Kerrisdale, near the University of British Columbia. They knock on the door. Dr. Roy Makepeace, Cindy's ex-husband, answers in a bathrobe, bleary-eyed but calm. He invites them in, sits at his dining table while they take notes. He tells them about his day, a long bike ride with a friend, dinner, helping install a stereo, and he was home by midnight. Every detail later checks out. He seems genuinely worried, but measured, controlled, the kind of calm that reads either as innocence or calculation. He admits he hasn't spoken to Cindy that evening. He offers his own theories. Maybe she's with friends, or maybe she needed space. When they leave, one officer jots a quick line in his notebook, quote, "Interview, no signs of deception," end quote. After speaking with her ex-husband and other people close to Cindy, investigators turned their attention to the hours before Cindy vanished, trying to piece together an ordinary Thursday that had somehow ended in silence. It was a puzzle made of errands and small moments, the kind that seem harmless until you realize they were the last anyone would ever see of her. According to investigative notes summarized by journalist Neal Hall and later presented at the 1990 inquest, it's Thursday, May 25th, 1989. Cindy James wakes up early in her Richmond townhouse. She's 44 years old now, a nurse, a daughter, a sister, a woman who has lived for nearly a decade with fear shadowing every step. But that morning, she seems lighter. According to Neal Hall's reconstruction of her final day, Cindy spent the morning tidying her home and walking her dog Heidi. She had plans for that evening, bridge with her close friends, the Woodcocks. At around noon, she visited a department store in Richmond Center for what staff described as a makeup consultation, one of those beauty counter sessions where they test products and help you choose a shade. Witnesses remembered her as cheerful, relaxed, and even laughing. From there, she went to Sears, where receipts show she bought gifts for her friend's son, wrapping paper, a toy, and a few household items. 2 time-stamped receipts from that visit, one at 12:33 p.m. and one at 12:43 p.m., would later help police reconstruct her movements. She stopped at Safeway next, picking up some groceries. And by mid-afternoon, she's home again, putting those groceries away, probably wrapping that gift, maybe even thinking about the bridge game she was hosting later that night. Around 4 o'clock, she knocks on her tenant Richard Johnson's door. She tells him she's heading out again for a few more errands, to deposit her paycheck and pick up a few things, that she'll be back well before Agnes and Tom arrive. Cindy makes one last stop before running her errands. She pulls into the parking lot at Richmond General Hospital, where she still works part-time in the pediatric outpatient clinic. Inside, the fluorescent lights hum softly above rows of lockers and bulletin boards covered in memos. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and coffee. She greets the receptionist with her usual warm smile, polite but not overdone. The kind of smile nurses wear after years of keeping it together, no matter what is happening around them. A smile, as a nurse, I know well. According to Neal Hall's book, The Death of Cindy James, Cindy picks up her paycheck from the front desk and pauses in the staff lounge to chat. A co-worker later recalled she was calm, friendly, even upbeat, sipping coffee and laughing about weekend plans, talking about a dinner that she had lined up for Friday night. There's no tension in her voice, no hint of fear in her posture. To everyone in that lounge, Cindy James looked like a woman living in an ordinary Thursday afternoon. She tucks the paycheck into her purse, thanks the clerk, and heads out through the sliding doors, the kind that hiss open and shut behind her. She drives off toward No. 3 Road. No one at the hospital knew it then, but Cindy was about to vanish. That ordinary conversation over coffee would be the last time anyone who knew her well would ever see her again. At 7:58 p.m., bank records confirmed she deposited her paycheck at the Bank of Montreal on No. 3 Road. Surveillance wasn't common in the late 1980s, so police relied on witnesses. A customer in line behind her described a woman in maroon slacks and a white blouse, polite, professional, carrying herself like someone on her way home. For the next 2 hours, her movements disappear from the record. No receipts, no calls, no sightings. Whatever happened took place in that missing window between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. 2 weeks after Cindy vanished, on June 8, 1989, the mystery broke open in the most horrifying way. According to Wikipedia, which summarizes Inquest testimony and reporting from the province of Vancouver Sun, a municipal paving worker named Gordon Starchuk was cutting through the yard of an abandoned house at 8111 Blundell Road in Richmond when he noticed something tangled in the blackberry bushes. At first glance, he thought it was a mannequin left to rot in the sun, but when he stepped closer, he realized it was a woman. Cindy James, hogtied, her wrists pulled painfully behind her back with rope. A black nylon stocking cinched tight around her neck. Her right leg was caught underneath the thorny vines. Then nearby, her coat lay neatly folded on the ground. The house sat just off a busy intersection, the kind of spot where people passed every day on foot, yet somehow no one had seen her there. According to the scene report summarized by Wikipedia and Neal Hall, the outside of the house was tagged with graffiti. On the fuel tank, someone had sprayed in bright orange paint, quote, "Some bitch died here," end quote. A thin orange line ran from the tank across the grass, curling in a circle around where her body lay. Inside the house, investigators found more graffiti, the word devil and 666 scrawled across a wall. At the scene, Dr. Sheila Carlisle, the forensic pathologist on duty that day, studied the body where it lay. The ropes binding Cindy's wrists had been pulled so tight that one of her fingers had clawed into another, deep enough to leave bone exposed. on the inside of her right arm, near the bend of the elbow, she noticed a small puncture mark, the kind that could come from a syringe. Later, forensic entomologist Dr. Gail Anderson would testify that insect activity on the body suggested decomposition had started days earlier, likely around June 2nd, which was nearly a week before Cindy was discovered. An autopsy at the British Columbia Coroners Service confirmed what those at the scene had suspected. Cindy had died from a lethal combination of drugs: morphine, diazepam, better known as Valium, and flurazepam, a sedative she'd long been prescribed for sleep. According to toxicologist Heather Dinn, tests on her stomach showed residue from roughly 20 high-dose flurazepam capsules, or perhaps as many as 80 of a lower strength, along with traces of Valium. Each drug, on its own, could have been fatal. Her blood contained 10 times the amount of morphine considered lethal, but what baffled investigators was how it entered her system. Pharmacologist Dr. John McNeal told the inquest that only a small amount of morphine appeared in her stomach, not nearly enough to explain the concentration in her blood. He believed it was possible the drug had been injected, with only trace amounts diffusing back through her system after death. If that were true, Cindy would have lost consciousness within minutes and died soon thereafter. The official cause of death was recorded as quote-unquote multiple drug intoxication. Even so, the coroner acknowledged that the overdose was so extreme. There was no way to know how long she might have been conscious or mobile before she collapsed. Still, as reported at the time in the Vancouver Sun, the RCMP's working theory leaned toward either suicide or accidental overdose, a theory that left her family reeling. And to understand how police reached that conclusion, or why they saw this death as something she did to herself, we have to go back 7 years to the beginning of all of this. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about where this information is coming from. Much of what you're about to hear is drawn from investigative reporter Neal Hall's book, The Deaths of Cindy James, along with testimony from the 1990 British Columbia Coroners Inquest, family accounts from Cindy's sister Melanie Hack, and archived reports from the Vancouver Sun and the province. These sources together trace a detailed documented timeline, one that begins in the fall of 1982, when Cindy's life first started to unravel. It's the fall of 1982. Cindy has just separated from Roy, and she has finally found a rhythm again. She's working, seeing friends, and trying to move on from a marriage that had grown cold and complicated. But in late September, she starts to tell people that she feels watched. She'll be standing in the kitchen and catch the faintest movement in the reflection of the window, or she'll take the garbage out and hear gravel crunch, too close, too deliberate. Friends think she's just rattled, newly single, nervous about being alone. But then the phone calls begin. According to police records later cited in the inquest, the first one comes on October 7th, 1982. There's no voice, just breathing. Deep, steady, deliberate. The next night, a whisper. Then another call. The voice is different now, higher pitched, maybe even a woman. Then back to a man. It's as if someone is changing voices on purpose. Cindy tells her mother the calls are sometimes violent and sometimes sexual. The voice says things that make her stomach twist, and when she finally reports it, the RCMP visit her at her home and tell her to start a log. Write down every call, the time, what was said, even the tone, and they suggest that she get an unlisted phone number. That same night, after the officer leaves, the phone rings again. This time, there's anger in the voice. Quote, "You think calling the police will save you?" End quote. Then click. The next morning, she wakes to shattered porch lights. 2 days later, a rock through her front window. And a few days after that, a pillow on her bed slit open. You can almost feel the escalation. It's never just one thing. It's one after another after another. When the RCMP assigned a young constable named Pat McBride to her case, he immediately suspects that Cindy's ex-husband, Dr. Roy Makepeace, may be behind it. Roy insists he just wants Cindy to be safe, but Cindy's words about him don't line up. She tells police he's incapable of this. Then later, she tells friends about the times he's lost his temper, how he could be controlling, how leaving him hadn't been easy. One neighbor swears she's seen a man outside Cindy's house on more than one occasion, standing near the gate, once even walking up the front path, but she's sure it's not Roy. The calls continue. The cut and paste letters start, and Constable McBride begins spending more and more time at Cindy's house, checking on her, making sure she's okay. But what begins as a professional concern turns into something else. By October 31st, Halloween, the two are in a relationship. McBride moves in, says it'll be temporary, just for a couple weeks to keep watch for the intruder. But almost immediately things get strange. McBride looks out the window one night and spots Roy's car idling in the alley behind the house. When he confronts him, Roy says he's trying to catch Cindy's stalker in the act. McBride tells him to leave. Later that month, McBride answers a call at Cindy's home. No words, just background noise, like at an airport terminal. The line is later traced to a Richmond exchange, nowhere near the airport. Soon, a note appears on Cindy's windshield. A collage of images, a covered body, a morgue scene, clipped words spelling something cruel and final. A week later, McBride finds the phone lines outside the house cut in 5 different places. The harassment isn't stopping, and Cindy, once outgoing and steady, starts to withdraw. She's jumpy at work, distracted, and afraid to be home alone. By December, McBride moves out, but they still stay close, still having dinner together, still talking every night. Sometimes they even cross the border to Bellingham, Washington for a quiet meal just to escape. But the danger seems to follow her everywhere. That December, just before Christmas, Cindy finds a card left on her doorstep. It's a holiday card, but the image isn't festive. It's horrifying. On the front is a photograph of a woman's throat slashed, with red ink smeared across it to look like blood, and inside it states, "Merry Christmas." It's grotesque, and it's personal. Whoever is doing this doesn't just want to scare her. They want her to know that they can reach her anywhere, anytime. By now, Cindy is living in a kind of suspended fear. She still is working, seeing friends, still smiling when people ask if she's okay. But inside, she's unraveling. You can almost hear it in her own words, the way she writes in her diary about feeling trapped in a nightmare that no one else believes. And that disbelief, maybe more than anything, becomes the most dangerous thing in her life. Next week on Valley of Secrets, we continue with the attacks and the torment that led to Cindy's death and the evidence that doesn't add up with what police are saying. If you have any information about the death of Cindy James, please contact the Richmond RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. Even one small piece of information could help bring peace to her remaining family, and maybe finally to her story. Thank you for listening to Valley of Secrets. If this story has moved you, please share it. Follow along on Instagram or Facebook at Valley of Secrets Podcast. Every share helps keep these voices and their memories alive. If you want to contribute a small monthly donation, you can click the link under the source information to support this podcast. Any amount is greatly appreciated. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and stay curious.